Hello, welcome to the Opinionistics. I'm your host, John Malone. We'll possibly get co-hosts joining us, but if not, let's just go with the flow. So, introducing from Essex, Myron Edwards.
Good afternoon, or good evening, as the case may be. As where I am actually is in Limassol in Cyprus, because I moved over from Essex a long time ago. But nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So, tell me more about what you do or did exactly.
Okay, well, for 30 odd years, I was in the travel business. I worked for travel agents, I worked for tour operators, and I worked for airlines. And I also, at that time, shall we say, tried a bit of freelance writing. And I was lucky enough to get picked up with the two Ronnies, which was at the time a very big shall we say, comedy duo. In fact, they were one of the biggest comedy duos. I'm very successful, and I was lucky enough to do some material for them with a guy that I work with, and the two of us we went and did some freelance writing for radio. And that was headlines and weekendings, and I did another couple of shows as well on TV, not the 9 o'clock news, and also I did a kick up the 80s. So you can see my career was very much in the late 70s, beginning 80s. I also at that time diversified out of the travel business into copywriting because I was doing writing anyway. And I went and joined JWT, who were at that time one of the biggest advertising agents in the world. So my career has been very checkered from that perspective. And I just got into writing, and that's really how it all began.
Hmm, interesting. So, what inspired you to do some writing jobs in the past?
We fell into the writing side of things because the two of us were in a band at first. We played in a band. Um, but we were okay. We were semi-professional. We weren't professionals, but we enjoyed what we did. And then just purely by chance, my mate who was the rhythm guitarist at the time and lead singer, he suggested that he had a friend who worked for a hospital radio station. Now, the hospital radio station didn't want music; they wanted comedy scripts, and I hadn't written anything at all by at that point. Um, and so we put some scripts together for the patients, and we recorded them ourselves as well. From there, what happened was we had a lot of surplus material, and that surplus material, he took the initiative and sent it to the BBC, and that's where our, if you like, our writing career began. So we sent the material that we had, a few jokes, a few one-liners, and things like that, some sketches, and it got picked up. We were very lucky. We were on the Christmas show on the two Ronnies, so yeah, we were very lucky at that time, and we tried to keep the momentum going by writing for radio programs such as Headlines, where we were able to get a few lines on each week, which was great. And I did some satirical writing for a program called Weekending, which starred a few of the well-known stars of those days, as well as probably today. Only Fools and Horses. David Jason was in Weekendings. He started there. Griff Rhys Jones, you probably have heard of, he started on Weekendings, and he also started on um, uh, not the 9 o'clock news. So I've crossed over in my career with some of the people that have gone on to do great things. John Lloyd, who was the producer on Headlines, he went on to do Blackadder, and now he's involved with QI, the satirical program on the BBC. And I also had a chance to work with Douglas Adams, who was the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So I was in there or thereabouts at the time, but Uh, I didn't take it very far because I had to keep a career going, and the career that I had to do, because at that time I was married, I had to pay the mortgage and everything else, and freelance writing was enough to pay. It wasn't enough to pay the mortgage, so I kind of took a back seat with the freelance writing. And it wasn't until I moved out to Cyprus, in all honesty, that I started to take writing up, if you like, from a different perspective.
All right then. And beyond what you kind of just said with Cyprus, what other reasons have you chose to move there?
Well, my wife is Greek Cypriot, on the family side of things. She was born in England, but the family are Greek Cypriots. They come from, some of them come from the mountain areas, others come from the area around Nicosia. And basically, what we did was we came over one year before we were married for a holiday, met the family and that sort of thing. What happened purely by chance is we went to Aphrodite's Rock, which is the famous birthplace of the goddess Aphrodite, and it was there I had my sort of epiphany moment, if you like, and that in many ways triggered off something in my, shall we say, writing idea that I had, and I couldn't do anything about it until I basically got more background on it, and that wouldn't happen for a further 4 or 5 years until we moved the family over.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Um, and we've been over here nearly 17, 18 years now. My kids love it. They were brought up here. My daughter was 7 when she came over. My son was 14. So there was a bit of a gap, but my daughter was lucky that she didn't have to worry about, shall we say, education in terms of, she started from the start of a Greek language. So she was going into school. She dropped down a year because she needed to have that extra year's experience, but she learned two dual languages. So she and English. My son had to go to private school because being at 14, he couldn't go to a Greek school. He needed to be in an English school, and the only English schools that were the private schools. So that's where we sent him. We sent him to private school.
Hmm. Okay. Interesting. So one of our co-hosts just joined us. So is there any questions, Risk, in terms of him being a writer, working for the BBC, or anything else?
No,
Started
go,
working.
carry on.
Sorry. So Risk, you want to ask Myron a question?
Yeah, how did you get started writing for the BBC?
That was a good question. Okay, in those days, you could go to the BBC, to the studio, the Paris studio in Lower Regent Street. Do you know it?
Don't think I do know.
Okay, in Lower Regent Street there is a. Oh, wait a minute. Can you hear me? I think the
Yeah, we can.
machine's gone off. Okay. Sorry. There is there's a studio called the Paris Studio, and what we used to do is we used to go to, first of all, we needed to go to show the scripts to the producers. So we went into the producers' offices, showed them the script. So it would take, like, the schedule would take like this. On a Sunday, I would read all the newspapers, get myself some lines together, and then on Monday I would go across to the BBC, to Portland Place. I would then show it to the script people. He would then show it to the producer. The producer would then look at it and select, if he wanted to, how many gags he wanted, or sketches. He would then go down to the Paris studio on a Tuesday to record for Hudlines. Now, Hudlines was with Roy Hudd, who was a very famous comedian and a brilliant actor as well, which is very much people don't understand, but he was a very, very good actor. and he had this series called the News Headlines, which was topical sketches as well as one-liners for what had happened in the previous week and the week coming. And that was that was the way that we went for headlines. Now, that would also give me the opportunity to do weekendings as well. Now, weekendings was on a Friday, which gave me Tuesday, Wednesday, and probably Thursday to get everything together and then take it to the BBC, and then the BBC would record it. But in those days, that's how you could do it. I don't think they have this situation anymore. You have to have representation these days, I think. I don't know if they will allow, shall we say, freelance writers anymore, because the programs that they have are so different to what we were writing in those days. Headlines, weekendings, etc. were everybody could contribute if you were good enough. There were lots and lots of people who started on those particular shows who went on to become writers in their own right, if you like.
So,
Cool.
anything else you want to dive into, Jamie?
Pardon?
Anything
Yeah,
else?
he was asking me.
Yeah.
So, but I do have another question.
Yeah, sure.
If you could live like anywhere else in the world, where would it be?
Very good question, actually. I've been because I was in the travel business, I have been around, if you like, the world. Been fortunate enough to visit very many countries. I think South Africa was probably the best one that I've visited, that I think I might have gone to, shall we say, emigrate to. South Africa had some wonderful country. It has amazing beaches. It also has great opportunities, or it did have. I don't know what it's like these days, but I like South Africa. I also liked Australia as well. Australia was I only got as far as Perth, but it was lucky enough to get to Perth, and I liked Perth very much. That would have been a choice as well. On the more exotic side of things, if I'd opted to go anywhere, I did live in Hong Kong. Well, I did work in Hong Kong for a while, so I liked the idea of Hong Kong, but pre-Chinese. In other words, before the 1997 takeover. I think that was a favourite place of mine as well. But for sheer, shall we say, adultery, luxury, or whatever you want to call it, I'd go to the Seychelles. There's unbelievable. I've never been on a beach where I've been the only one on it.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
So what are you kind of doing now in Cyprus?
I'm retired. I worked in the financial when I came over here. I did previously work in an advertising agency, and that was doing okay until we had a fire, and that blew the whole thing out the window. But I was writing TV commercials and press commercials for a Cypriot agency, and then because of the, shall we say, the lay of the land here in Cyprus, if you're not in tourism, then you're in finance. And so the other big thing that is over here in Cyprus is foreign exchange. So Forex and things like that, binary options, which was one of the big things that started over here. They were very, very popular. But then, of course, everybody caught up with what binary options is. And now you have cryptocurrency, which is also the new thing over here as well. Blockchain cryptos and things like that. That have proved to be popular over here because this is a double tax treaty island. So it encourages people to invest. That's why we have a large number of Russians and, shall we say, Ukrainians as well, because they have moved over since the war. And we have a few Chinese as well. They invest in the country, mainly because, and they basically price the market out of the reach of the populace. the population can't afford, particularly in Limassol, the prices that the property is now being sold at.
Okay, okay. What should they teach in high school, but they don't?
In high school over here, that's a good question, but I'm not experienced with high school except from my own kids, and I found that their education system was very good, particularly the private schools. The private schools are excellent. They taught my son how to speak Greek, as well as gave him his BA. So he was lucky. He was lucky to get a university education. So was my daughter. My daughter was already bilingual, though, but that was a big advantage. But in terms of what they should teach over here, I think they've got pretty much everything covered from an academic point of view, because of the leaning towards Greek from that aspect. Um, Perhaps I don't know. I can't really say that there's anything that they're missing out on. That the one thing possibly they need to look at is the divide with the British culture and the Cypriot culture. There is a divide, but we do have three air bases over here. And those air bases have expats and things living close to them in areas like Paphos, which is again another British orientated place, because the tourists that usually come from the UK come to Paphos. They like Paphos very much. Mainly the younger people go to Ayanapa, which is the shall we say, the playground. Limassol has become a cultural, more a business centre than a tourist area, although it does have a fair smattering of tourist facilities. At one time, it was the longest stretch of tourist beach in Europe. I don't know if it still is. I think Croatia is now, but at one time it had almost 300 bars and restaurants. So it gives you an idea of what it's like. But that has now changed, because we have many building sites, and those building sites are being made into office blocks or apartments and things like that. So the culture of Limassol is changing dramatically.
All right then. What is the best way to start the morning?
Oh, good. Well, if I don't want to advertise, but I always like to have a egg McMuffin. That possibly is the best way for me. Sausage egg McMuffin, to be honest. But I think that when you're retired, you just try to take as much options. I'm fortunate if I can go down to the beach. At the moment, the weather's not. In other words, it's a bit chilly in the morning, so I prefer to wait till now the sun is starting early in the morning. We get now a change in temperature from about this next week onwards, when Easter comes. It will rise up to about 70, maybe 75 within about a space of a month. So yeah, I can see myself going down to the beach quite more, a fair bit more.
Cool, cool. If you had a song for every time you enter the room, what song would that be?
Um, what a good question. A song every time I entered the room. I did it my way, possibly. I can't really think of anything else. Yeah, I think that's probably sums it all up, really. And I did it my way. Although in many ways that probably conflicts with a lot of what other people would think. Yeah, that would probably be my song.
Okay, cool, cool. If you could get an exotic pet, what kind of companion would you like to have?
Oh, an exotic pet.
Mm-hmm.
How exotic?
As exotic as you like.
If I had a pool, I'd go for an otter. I've always thought incredible little creatures, but you need a pool, or at least something with water in it so that you can keep them, should we say, satisfied. Other than that, I used to have a dog, but unfortunately he's no longer with us. And I don't really have anything else, I don't think. No, I think the otter would probably be my most exotic.
Cool, cool. What improved your life quality so much you wish you knew it sooner?
Oh, it's a very good question as well. I think possibly if I had done more in the way of language, I think that would have improved dramatically. Living over here, we're dual languages, so you would think that after so many years, I would be able to speak Greek. I can only do a smattering of Greek, and that's not because I've been lazy. It's just that basically everywhere I've gone, all the jobs that I've worked, they've always been bilingual. So I've never really had to push myself to learn Greek because at the end of the day, everybody speaks English. So even if you went into a petrol station and you said to them, "Can I have, 25 quid's worth or 25 euros worth of petrol," uh, in Greek, they would turn around to you and speak to you in English. So it's a kind of a bit different from what you would expect living in a foreign country. But this is possibly one of the advantages of living in Cyprus, is that we do have dual language, and it does make an attraction for people who want to come here who are English speaking. But again, I think in hindsight, I would have liked to have learned the language. It's too late now for me. I think it's just too late.
Yeah, I suppose so. How much time do you spend on the internet?
I spend quite a bit of time on the internet because trying to publicize my books as well does mean that I need to visit websites on a regular basis. I have my own website as well, which is myronedwardsbooks.com. And that helps me to promote the books, the trilogy that I've written. And that is one of the things that I think is a valuable tool for the internet. But I also find it extremely inconvenient when you get hit by all kinds of messages that you don't want. And you get spam and everything else coming through from people, and that in many ways is a deterrent for me to go on. But I do spend a bit of time on it. I read the news, particularly YouTube, of what's happening on the news on the BBC website as well. So yeah, it's part of my day, put it that way.
Cool, cool. What is your strangest talent?
Oh my God. Strangest talent. Strangest talent. Oh, I don't know if I've got one actually, to be honest. I wouldn't say that I'm particularly strange in that respect. I don't really think I have anything. Nothing like I can bend my toes back or anything like that. I don't have those sort of qualities. Um, I can't answer that question. I don't really have a strange talent. I'm sorry.
It's all right, I understand. If you could turn any activity into an Olympic sport, what would you have a good chance of winning a medal for?
Oh, what now at my age? Walking football, I should think. That's probably about where I am at this stage in life, is walking football. But I don't know. I quite like the idea because I play pool each weekend, and I think pool would be a good Olympic sport. To be honest, I think that might be quite a challenge for the Olympics because it's an indoor sport, and it's also something that I think would appeal to a lot of people to watch.
Okay, cool, cool. Would you ever want to try space tourism?
Um, in a word, no, I don't think so. I am. no, then when you get older, you think about mortality, and you think about also the idea of what the Earth looks like, and you kind of get lost in the, if you like, in the ether of it all, because it's hard to comprehend. And when you start thinking about what lies beyond the Earth and the planets and the orbits and the black holes, and I was only reading last week about something about there are 3 billion galaxies. Well, I mean, you can't even imagine what 3 billion looks like, let alone what galaxies look like. From that perspective, it just goes straight over my head. I can't comprehend it, and if I can't comprehend it, I can't understand it. I can't understand it. I wouldn't want to go there.
All right, fair enough. I understand. People prefer to live the rest of their lives on Earth and not just go somewhere else in space. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think that probably sums it up. Well, at my age, I think I'm too old to be an astronaut anyway.
Yeah, I suppose so. What has caused you to feel nostalgic recently?
Oh, I think the death of the Queen actually had quite a poignant thing to it, because I was born the same year of 1952 as when she came to the throne in 1953. And that, I think, had a significant sort of, not impact on me, because I only saw her, I think, once or twice in my life. And that was once was at the Silver Jubilee in 1977. But she was always there, so she was always a constant as far as the UK population was concerned. She in many ways was if you like, the epitome of what British was in that respect, because she'd been through all of the various stages. She'd lived through how many prime ministers? Was it 14 prime ministers, something like that? She was a complete, shall we say, a complete person, and a complete entity in her own right. And I think when she passed on, that was a big moment for a lot of people in my age group, because it kind of brought it home that if she, was no longer with us, where was the stability? Because she was defining stability in the British way of life, and I think that in many ways is something that we'll miss, simply because she was always there, and I think that is probably the most nostalgic thing. Okay, I mean, I can go through the various nostalgia of going to particular football teams over the years when I was younger, seeing the England matches, the international matches, those kind of things, going to bands and watching people like Fleetwood Mac before they were even heard of, going to the Rolling Stones concert in Hyde Park. Those are all events, but in terms of a personality, I think she was the main thing.
Hmm. Okay. What restaurant do you eat at most?
Well, we're very lucky over here. If you talk about um, what type of food, we have various cuisines. We have a multitude of cuisines, from local cuisine, which is Cypriot food. We have international food, American. We have Chinese. We have Italian. We have Indian. Various fast food outlets. We have Italian pizza outlets. We have everything over here. I know I sound like a tourist office, but at the end of the day, it is very much like that, because tourism is a central part of Cypriot life, and that Cypriot life is reflected in the number of people that visit the island. Now, I think in January they had something like 14 million or something like that, or might have been 40 million. Yeah, no, I think it was 14 million. That after the pandemic was something that they needed to do. They needed to boost the tourism aspect, and they are fortunate in as much as they have international cuisines, fast food, whatever you want, you can get over here. And of course, we have very luxurious hotels. The luxury of the hotels means that you can have anything that you want, day or night, 24 hours a day, depending on which hotel you're in. If you're in something like the Four Seasons, then you're catered for. But it's horses for courses. You pay for what you get.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is all we have for this episode. It was great having you here, Myron, talking about your life, your journey, living in Cyprus. A lot of things. It's been an absolute honor.
Yeah, so it's my pleasure. I'd like to just say that if anybody would like to know more about the books, my website will actually give you all the rundown of the books, and there's also a YouTube video on there which you might find quite interesting as well. It's myronedwardsbooks.com. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you. I hope the rain stays off in Manchester.
Me too.
All the best.
You too. And
Bye-bye.
until next time, stay opinionated.